Second test match, second session completed, and only the second time that the second wicket has put on 100 plus for India in test match cricket in South Africa. Cheteshwar Pujara and Murli Vijay doing the damage in that session. The first time it was Rahul Dravid, and take a guess, well, Deepdas Gupta, who did it over a decade ago. Sorry for coming to you a little late on tea. We were just finishing our tea, which took a little longer because it had probably run cold. Just like that South African bowling attack, you'd think Daryll Cullinan, but I'll come to that in a minute. Quickly remind you of where we stand at tea on day one. 163 for 1 India, 87 runs in that session in 27 overs. No wickets gone. Vijay unbeaten 76, Pujara unbeaten 55. And well, yes, we've not got too much time with you on tea, but let's quickly wrap up what we've seen and get Sanjay and Daryll's thoughts before we dedicate a little time to Jacques Kallis. Daryll, the South African bowling attack, did it do enough and was outplayed by the Indian batting, or did it just not do enough?
I think with the pitch and the way that it is, Smith was trying to do something in terms of changing his line and his fields, but the pitch is unresponsive at this stage. They just got to keep plugging away. I think the only positive for South Africa is that India haven't run away with the game. Okay, and word on the Indian batting, Sanjay, Murli Vijay, somebody who's who's impressed you more and more as the session went on?
Yeah, the discipline, which has been the great strength of this Indian batting performance, which comes as a bit of a revelation for a lot of people when they look at this modern day, Indian batting unit. So that discipline continues into this test match. Is right. The pitch seems to have flattened out. It looks like a subcontinental pitch. But also you've got to say that, the captaincy aspect of Graeme Smith also was good. I think it made, we saw a lot of sense in the kind of bowling changes that were made.
Okay, we're just talking about Murli Vijay. We were showing you his wagon wheel and where Murli Vijay has scored his runs. We'll bring that up for you again and have Sanjay Manjrekar take you through it. A lot of runs through the covers. Sanjay, what does that tell you?
What you're looking on the left-hand side is Murli Vijay in the first test match where he got 39 and 94 balls, just 4 runs, which is about 9% of the runs, 39 that he got on the offside through the cover region. And here in the second innings, or rather second test match, 76 not out of a total, he's got 26. So that I'm thinking close to 30% of the runs are coming through the cover. So what's basically happened is that area has opened up for Murli Vijay on this pitch because of the way the pitch is playing, and also because he has shown some discipline at the start of the innings. And now once that area opens up for Murli Vijay, he's into his zone, because that's a heavy scoring area for him, the covers.
It just comes back to the point that we were watching the first test with such engagement because every ball was doing something. This test match on the first day doesn't seem to be like that. Just re-emphasizes how important a role a pitch can play in test cricket.
Absolutely, the signs are there that it's a good one, as we've seen with Vijay, when batsmen start driving bowlers off the back foot and being a lot freer and driving balls on the up off the front foot, and your margins of error are so much smaller here. And the danger for Graeme Smith and the bowlers is in trying to get more wickets. They could try too much, then suddenly things run away with you. It's fine margins at the moment, but yes, it does look very good for batting.
And again, the discipline that I keep talking about. There was that occasion when Peterson is coming in, and I can imagine Murli Vijay has got all the shots in the book. We see him in the IPL playing those big shots, score at a strike rate of 160, 170. Now, how tempting it must be for a guy who's battling against the faster bowlers to see somebody like Peterson, and with the field, inside in the ring sort of field. But still, they're able to control their temptation or their urges to hit the big shots and get those easy runs. So I'm amazed by the kind of energy that they've shown and the will to fight. I just wonder, because they get this reputation and all the attention for being these modern day IPL successes and the kind of monies that they earn, that they feel even more obliged to show that they are also good test batsmen. I just wonder whether that is coming into play, because the kind of discipline these people are showing, people like Murli Vijay, who have the big shots but are not willing to play it even against the weaker bowlers with the opposition on the mat, is just tremendous to see.
At 163 for 180, Daryll, you've gone through a session as a batting team without losing a wicket. Would you tell yourself that this is such a flat pitch that you need 500, so the job is far from done, or are you still confident things will change?
Ideally for India, that's what they'd love to do, because it then means that losing the test match is very improbable for them. So that can secure the series, and then they can push on. This next session is vitally important, particularly for South Africa. They've got to somehow put India under pressure and claw back a bit of the advantage that India have at the moment.
And a quick word just for all our viewers who couldn't see what was happening. The light deteriorated towards the end of that session. The floodlights are on at Kingsmead. Are you surprised as to how quickly the light seems to be dimming, or is this normal for this kind of year?
It's normal for this ground. We've had instances in the past where a lot of players been lost through bad light, and it comes to begs the question, when will they go off? If the umpires decide that it's with a red ball,
is
it's not
that
good for the
natural
batsman.
fading light, or is it because of the cloud cover comes in?
It's the cloud cover. It sort of rolls off the sea,
Right.
and the ground being fairly close to the coastline. And it's always one of those questions asked: why do we have test matches down in Durban when the rain sort of stays away? Now we sit with potentially a light issue. It's one thing on the bowling. There is a sign of reverse swing.
Okay.
But then the Indian batsmen so far have played it very well.
We saw that just towards the end where Daryll came on to bowl an over or so before tea and hit 140 throughout, and that over did beat Murli Vijay a couple of times. Let's see how both teams will come out in the third session. But like we said, this test match now has to be, there's a major talking point around it no matter what the action is like, and that's Jacques Kallis, who will be playing for the last time in whites for South Africa. We will dedicate a little segment of every show on Match Point to Jacques Kallis. Now, how has Jacques Kallis fared in his home ground? We've spoken so much of how difficult it is for South African batsmen at home in contrast to when they play away. Our Goodbye Kallis section shows you about 6,900 runs. You could see the glaring difference between number 1 and number 2. Don't forget to go right down to the bottom before you check out on that list and see Daryll Cullinan, who is third on averages. Daryll, the numbers itself tell a story. Tell me what your first reaction is when you look at those numbers.
My first reaction is 2200s at home and 22 away from home. And as far as batsmen go, that is a very good average at home. You know, there's always the question to ask, or what you can observe is some are either brilliant at home, not so good away, or some even better away than at home. And it just shows you what an all-round outstanding player he has been all over the world.
So what do you attribute this to? I mean, the big difference, when you look at 44, 45, and he's in his own league, 56. Is it the kind of batting that he had? Was it because he was so solid and compact and, good sort of basics in batting? Do you attribute that to?
For sure. You don't build figures around a poor defence, and the ability to defend and spend long time at the crease. A good defence and a sound temperament. That's not achieved on having wonderful strokes and then under pressure not being able to play well. And I think Kallis answers all those questions. He started perhaps at a time when the batting conditions improved in South Africa, not for a moment suggesting that it was certainly easy for him. But my immediate reaction is that how good he's been away from home in all conditions, and he's played enough cricket against all the sides, home and away, to deserve those sorts of figures.
Yeah, well, you can see that average there was right at the top. It's not only a question of quantity for Jacques Kallis. He has played the most number of matches, but the average stands out as well. Your average of 44 points, I think it was just a little under 45. It was worth a lot more back then when the Durban pitch wasn't as flat.
One could say that, but it helps when you've played a few matches. Yeah, that's the other thing too.
It's a good number of matches, Mr. Cullinan. 36 matches is a good number. He's just being modest as Daryll, but yeah, Jacques Kallis stands out in those numbers. Now, who's he enjoyed batting the most against when teams have toured? If you take a look at where Jacques Kallis scores his runs, he enjoys playing the West Indies. He also enjoys playing India. Australia is a number that stands out. With the greatest respect, we'll discount Bangladesh and Zimbabwe. But Sanjay, consistency throughout, and what does that Australia glaring figure tell you?
Yeah, I think Daryll might be able to explain that, because that is clearly, a poor performance when you look at his overall record. A guy who averages 56 at home and career average also very much on the same lines. So 14 matches is quite a bit, and 33 is a very, very poor.
Yeah. Qualitatively, also, I put that with the kind of bowling attacks that these teams have come with. What does it tell you?
Well, not too many batsmen played well against that Australian side of the 90s. You probably go and look at all of them. The big one to ask is how did Tendulkar fare and the likes of Dravid, and ask that question in Australia. So I think that's understandable.
I think their record, it's interesting actually. South Africa is so unique when it comes to, that's why I think his career record of 56 average is something worthwhile looking at, because you mentioned Dravid, Tendulkar in Australia, and they would be averaging 50 and over in Australia. But South Africa, in comparison, their averages would be a lot lower. So I think there's something about the pitches, and you can understand Australia with that kind of an attack on more responsive pitches. I think the Australian bowlers themselves might accept the fact that Australian pitches can, at least there'll be a couple of pitches very flat in a series of 4 or 5 test matches, but not so maybe in South Africa. So 33 is interesting though.
Thank you very much, gentlemen, and hope you enjoyed that little section on goodbye on Jacques Kallis in our Goodbye Kallis segment. We'll keep bringing you more. Let's take a couple of questions before we resume. Players is very close to begin, but let's take a question quickly that's come in. Do send in your questions via #matchpoint on Twitter. Naveen67, is this pitch a batting paradise? Is there nothing for bowlers in this pitch? How is it going to change in the coming days?
It looks pretty good, as we can see. Day 2 is the day that normally brings the most wickets, and you'd expect the pitch, like most grounds, to gradually deteriorate, but at this ground it actually improves. So, and it was looking so good now. Where are we going in this test match?
So it's going to be like Wanderers. It will just keep improving.
And you're so good when it comes to answering multiple questions, Daryll, Cullinan, all put together. You did a brilliant job. Okay, question 2 quickly. Let's show you that one. Uzair Rizvi, a home team always prepares the wicket of its own choice and conditions. So why a subcontinental track has been laid out here? Daryll, I'll let you take the lead on this as well.
Well, according to the ICC, and the way I understand it, is the home side may not influence the preparation of the pitch. So in other words, they can't speak to the groundsman or give him instructions, which is hard to believe because generally they'd know what South Africa is good at and where their strengths lie. Clearly this groundsman doesn't.
All right, thank you very much, Daryll, Sanjay. We know we've overshot time by a little bit, but we wanted to take your questions. You're an integral part of Matchpoint, remember that. So keep sending them in. Players already resumed. India will resume at 163 for 1, and we will join you at Stumps to review the entire day. Sanjay, Daryll will be there as well, so send in your questions. Until then, enjoy the cricket.
Peterson has just got back to the ball.
Tell me something.